Nós, estudantes de Relações Internacionais da PUC São Paulo e integrantes do Grupo de Estudo de Conflitos Internacionais, firmamos uma parceria com Democracy Now!
A partir de agora, vincularemos com legendas em português as mais importantes notícias internacionais da semana.
From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
What's the meaning of negotiations when you impose sanctions at the same time? It's like someone pulling a knife to stab a rival or an enemy in the arm, while at the same time claiming we should be talking and negotiating. The answer in such a case would be to say, remove the knife from the arm and put the knife away.
A nuclear standoff builds with Iran as the Trump administration reimposes economic sanctions following Trump's decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. We'll get response from Ambassador Sayed Hossein Mousavian, former spokesman for Iran in its nuclear negotiations with the European Union, author of Iran and the United States, an insider's view on the failed past and the road to peace. Then, as more than 100 wildfires rage across the United States, we go to Colorado, where protesters interrupted a speech by Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke and asked him why he refuses to acknowledge the role of climate change.
Secretary Zinke, why won't you acknowledge that climate change is causing and accelerating wildfires, even in Route County?
You know what you have to serve.
We'll speak with the protesters in Steamboat Springs who interrupted Zinke, as well as political reporter Ben Lefebvre, who's been doing a series of exposés on the Interior Secretary, who faces 14 investigations, almost as many as there were against the disgraced former EPA chief, Scott Pruitt. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has announced he will head to Pyongyang next month for a third summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Moon will become just the third South Korean president to travel to the North Korean capital. The meeting comes at a time when tension appears to be increasing again between the Trump administration and North Korea. Last week, National Security Advisor John Bolton accused North Korea of not taking the steps the Trump administration feels are necessary to denuclearize. In Washington, D.C., a white supremacist rally outside the White House largely fizzled Sunday when just over 24 people showed up for the Unite the Right protest. They were vastly outnumbered by counter-protesters, journalists, and police officers. Sunday's Unite the Right rally came a year after the deadly white supremacist protest in Charlottesville, Virginia. President Trump marked the anniversary of Charlottesville by writing on Twitter, "I condemn all types of racism." Shortly after the deadly Charlottesville protests last year, Trump said there were very fine people on both sides. A Baltimore police officer has resigned after a video went viral showing him repeatedly punching a man in the face before taking him to the ground and continuing to beat him. Officer Arthur Williams was initially suspended from the force but then resigned Sunday. The victim of the police beating, Deshaun McGreer, was taken to the hospital for possible fractures of the jaw, nose, and ribs. McGreer's attorney, Warren Brown, said, quote, "It seems like this officer had just decided that Deshaun was going to be his punching bag, and this was a brutal attack that was degrading and demeaning to my client, to that community, and to the police department." Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh describes the video as, quote, "very disturbing." Black Lives Matter activist DeRay McKesson tweeted, "And this is why folks don't have any faith in the police." President Trump's heading to Fort Drum, New York today to sign a record-setting $716 billion military spending bill. That's an $82 billion increase over the current year. The bill includes over $21 billion for nuclear weapons programs, including $65 million for a new submarine-launched low-yield nuclear weapon. In Afghanistan, a fierce battle is continuing over the control of the strategic city of Ghazni 4 days after the Taliban attacked the city, killing more than 200 people, including over 100 soldiers and police officers. Many residents have fled the city.
There were burning buildings and fire and dead bodies everywhere in Ghazni city, and the fight was ongoing. The situation was very bad, and all the shops were closed.
Afghan President Ashraf Ghani announced today more troops will be sent to Ghazni, which is a 2-hour drive from Kabul. Israeli forces shot dead 2 Palestinians during protests in Gaza Friday. 307 Palestinians were injured. The dead included a 22-year-old medic named Abdullah al-Khatati, who was shot in the chest while treating another Palestinian man who'd been fatally wounded. Al-Khatati became the 3rd medic to be shot dead in Gaza since the Great March of Return protests began in March. One of al-Khatati's colleagues said, quote, "Yes, Abdullah was armed. He was armed with bandages and surgical masks." The United Nations has revealed it has received reports China is holding over 1 million ethnic Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities in what resembles a massive internment camp in the western Xinjiang Autonomous Region. According to the group China Human Rights Defenders, more than 20% of all arrests in China last year occurred in Xinjiang, even though the region makes up less than 2% of China's population. China's rejected the internment camp reports, but an editorial in a state-backed newspaper says China's actions in Xinjiang have helped prevent the region from becoming China's Syria or China's Libya. In news from Latin America, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has said he would allow FBI agents into Venezuela to help investigate the recent assassination attempt against him. 2 drones loaded with explosives detonated over Maduro as he gave a nationally televised speech August 4th. Maduro says he believes the plotters of the attack have fled to Florida, Peru, and Colombia. In news from Washington, D.C., the White House is looking at ways to legally prevent former staffer Omarosa Amanagold-Newman from releasing more audio recordings made while she was a staffer at the White House. On Sunday, Meet the Press aired a recording the former reality star made of Chief of Staff John Kelly firing her inside the West Wing.
We've got to talk to you about leaving the White House. It's come to my attention over the last few months that there's been some pretty, in my opinion, significant integrity.
She said she made that recording inside the Situation Room. Up until her firing, Omarosa was President Trump's most prominent African-American advisor in the White House. In her new book, she describes the president as racist and claims he's used the N-word repeatedly. A jury in California has ordered Monsanto to pay $289 million in damages to a school groundskeeper who developed cancer after regularly using the Roundup weed killer. The 46-year-old man, Dwayne Johnson, has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Doctors say he's unlikely to live past 2020. Judge Suzanne Ramos Bolanos read the jury's verdict.
Was the Roundup Pro or Ranger Pro design a substantial factor in causing harm to Mr. Johnson? Answer, yes.
Monsanto faces more than 5,000 similar lawsuits around the country involving Roundup and other weed killers containing glyphosate. The airline industry is re-examining security protocols after an airport worker at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport stole a plane Friday night, took off without permission, then flew it for about an hour before crashing. Richard Russell was the only person on board when he crashed the 76-seat Horizon airplane. He died in the crash. In other airline news, the Transportation Security Administration is considering a plan to eliminate security checkpoints at more than 150 smaller regional U.S. airports. In news from Minnesota, outgoing Democratic Congressmember Keith Ellison's denying accusations he abused an ex-girlfriend. On Saturday, the woman's son posted a message on Facebook saying he'd seen a video of Ellison dragging his mother off a bed while screaming at her. Ellison said in a statement, "This video doesn't exist because I never behaved in this way, and any characterization otherwise is false," he said. On Sunday, Ellison's ex-girlfriend wrote on Twitter, "What my son said is true. Every statement he made was true." Congressmember Ellison is currently running to become Minnesota's next Attorney General. The Democratic primary is tomorrow. And the Egyptian-born Marxist economist Samir Amin has died at the age of 86. He was considered to be one of Africa's leading radical intellectuals and one of the pioneers of describing modern human history from the perspective of the Global South. He appeared on Democracy Now! From Tunisia in 2015.
oligarchy is not a specificity, say, of Russia today. You have an oligarchy running the United States, running the European Union and the countries of the European Union. You have oligarchies also running the dependent countries of Latin America, Africa, Asia, everywhere, oligarchy.
To see the interview in its entirety, you can go to democracynow.org, and those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
We are in Fairfax, Virginia, and just in front of the NRA headquarters. Today is August 4th, and Joaquin will be turning 18. Happy birthday!
6 months after the Valentine's Day massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, we speak to the parents of one of the 17 victims, Joaquin Oliver. They just mark what would have been Joaquin's 18th birthday with a large protest outside NRA headquarters. We'll talk to Manny and Patricia Oliver about how they're using art to remember their son and fight gun violence.
We decided, me and Patricia, that Joaquin, besides being a victim, that he is, sadly but true, he will be an activist. And this is a way to do that. This is a way to bring the legend of Joaquin right here, right now, very loud and clear, as one of the kids that is leading this amazing movement.
Then, nearly 3 weeks after the court-imposed deadline for reuniting families forcibly separated at the U.S.-Mexico border, more than 550 children remain in government custody. We'll speak with award-winning reporter John Carlos Frey, just back from Guatemala and Mexico. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In Pennsylvania, a grand jury report released Tuesday has revealed more than 300 Catholic priests sexually abused 1,000 children and possibly thousands more over 7 decades, and that the church leadership covered up the abuse. The report details how priests raped young girls and boys, including one priest who raped a young girl in the hospital after she had her tonsils out. Another priest impregnated a young girl, then arranged for her to have an abortion. The report also chronicles how the church used an array of tactics to conceal the abuse, including lying to the community about why a priest was removed from the parish, transferring pedophile priests rather than firing them, locking abuse complaints away in a secret archive. One priest who'd been repeatedly accused of child abuse asked for and received a letter of recommendation to work at Disneyland. This is the Pennsylvania Attorney General, Josh Shapiro.
The term secret archives is not my term. It is how the church officials themselves referred to the troves of documents sitting in filing cabinets just feet from the bishops' desks. In each diocese, the bishops had the key to the secret archives, which contained both allegations and admissions of the abuse and the cover-up.
The Vatican declined to comment on Tuesday. Primaries were held in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Connecticut, and Vermont on Tuesday, where Christine Hallquist made history by becoming the first openly transgender major party gubernatorial nominee in U.S. history. She easily won the Democratic primary, will now face Republican Vermont Governor Phil Scott in November. If she wins, she'll become the nation's first transgender governor. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders also easily won his Democratic Senate primary, though he's expected to run in November as an independent. In Minnesota, State Representative Ilhan Omar is now poised to become the first Somali-American woman elected to Congress and one of the first Muslim women elected to Congress after she won her Democratic primary on Tuesday. Her victory comes a week after another female Muslim candidate, Rashida Tlaib, won her congressional primary in Detroit. Also in Minnesota, outgoing Democratic Congressmember Keith Ellison won a sweeping victory in the Democratic primary for Attorney General. His victory comes only days after he was accused of physically and emotionally abusing his ex-girlfriend. He denies the charges. In Connecticut, former National Teacher of the Year Johanna Hayes handily won her Democratic primary and is poised to be Connecticut's first black woman in Congress. And in Kansas, which held its primary last week, Governor Jeff Collier has conceded to Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach in the too-close-to-call Republican primary for governor. Kobach is a key architect of the GOP's voter suppression efforts nationwide. He's fiercely anti-immigrant and led Trump's widely discredited Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity. President Trump has publicly attacked former White House aide Omarosa Manigault-Newman. In a racist and sexist tweet, Trump wrote, "When you give a crazed, crying lowlife a break and give her a job at the White House, I guess it just didn't work out. Good work by General Kelly for quickly firing that dog." Up until her firing, Omarosa was the only African-American to serve in a senior role at the White House. In her new book, she describes the president as racist and claims he's used the N-word repeatedly. President Trump has denied using the N-word, but CBS News has published an audio recording that appears to show White House aides discussing the potential fallout from the release of audio of Trump using the racial slur. This is a clip of the audio in which Trump spokesperson Katrina Pearson is speaking. Listen carefully.
I'm trying to find out at least what context it was used in to help us maybe try to figure out a way to spin it. Yeah, but no, he said it. He's embarrassed.
Omarosa released that tape. On Tuesday, White House spokesperson Sarah Huckabee Sanders said she could not guarantee there isn't an audio recording of Trump using the N-word. This is Sanders being questioned by NBC News' Kristen Welker.
Can you stand at the podium and guarantee the American people they'll never hear Donald Trump utter the N-word on a recording in any context?
I can't guarantee anything, but I can tell you that the president addressed this question directly. I can tell you that I've never heard it.
In Italy, at least 39 people were killed when a bridge collapsed in Genoa on Tuesday, sending dozens of vehicles tumbling 150 feet. The cause of the collapse is not yet known, but many residents are calling on the head of the company that operated the bridge to resign. The Morandi Bridge was the 5th bridge to collapse in Italy in 5 years. In Yemen, the health ministry says U.S.-backed Saudi-led airstrikes in Hodeidah province have killed 13 civilians and injured 24 more. The reported strikes come as outrage continues to grow over the U.S.-backed Saudi-led bombing of a children's school bus in Yemen's northern city of Sada, which killed 51 people, including 40 school children. This is UNICEF's Maritzel Milano.
UNICEF has been responding with medical materials and with support to the injured children. But the important thing is that these attacks don't repeat again. We don't need to come back again and treat the children. The objective is that children are not attacked, they are not killed, they are not injured. This is the most important. We need to put a stop to this war.
In Gaza, health officials say doctors have been forced to halt chemotherapy treatment for cancer patients because of severe medication shortages. The officials say the shortages have been exacerbated by Israel's decision in July to seal a key border crossing, a move Human Rights Watch has denounced as collective punishment. Also in Gaza, Israeli airstrikes destroyed a cultural center in Gaza City last week. A photo in the aftermath of the bombing shows Palestinians holding the cultural center sign surrounded by the building's rubble. And former CNN host Reza Aslan has spoken out about being detained by Israeli authorities while he was crossing into Israel from Jordan 2 weeks ago. Aslan said the Israeli authorities asked him to write down the names of Palestinians and journalists he knew and threatened him, saying, quote, "If you don't cooperate, it will be a long time before you see your kids again." Reza Aslan spoke out after Jewish-American journalist Peter Beinart also went public about his recent detention and questioning by Israeli authorities at Ben Gurion International Airport. in Tunisia. Thousands of people rallied in Tunis Monday to demand equal inheritance rights for women. The Tunisian president, Beji Caid Essebsi, has proposed changing the law to allow equal inheritance. Current Tunisian law typically allows men to inherit twice as much as women. And in Nebraska, authorities executed Carrie Dean Moore using a 4-drug cocktail that included fentanyl, which had never been used before in an execution in the United States. It was the first execution in Nebraska in more than 20 years. Journalists who witnessed the execution said Moore's face turned red and then purple, and that the execution took over 20 minutes from the moment the first drug was administered. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
Nosso programa fica por aqui. Você pode acompanhar a gente pela página do Facebook e pelo blog do GS Terra em Transe. Nos vemos na próxima semana. Até lá!
Proteja seu ovo. O professor da minha faculdade propôs um desafio ao meu grupo: construir um aparato de proteção ao ovo.
Para atingir esse objetivo principal, a gente teve que utilizar os conceitos de diversas disciplinas, algumas que a gente já tinha cursado, outras não, para que a gente conseguisse montar esse projeto.
Eu acredito que a gente vai ter que trabalhar com 2 tipos de armadura.
O professor determinou que cada uma das equipes deveriam ter no máximo 5 integrantes e que a gente deveria relatar tudo isso, toda essa parte, tanto de cálculo quanto de ensaios que foram feitas, num trabalho escrito.
A parte da armadura, que envolviam as barras de arame e os outros materiais similares, foram cortados e dimensionados, né, medidos aqui mesmo nos laboratórios de física, né?
Nós tínhamos não só que juntar todo o conhecimento que a gente já teve ao longo do curso, a parte teórica com a prática, né? Então, no desenvolvimento das formas de armadura, na confecção dos traços para achar um concreto ideal para o projeto. E isso é que é legal no projeto, ele nos traz autonomia, né?
É que é na prática que a gente resolve os problemas, né?
Como, por exemplo, fazer os ensaios para verificar a resistência desse concreto que a gente ia fazer, realmente fazer esse concreto, porque a gente nunca tinha verdadeiramente feito concreto com alguns materiais específicos, né? Por conta do peso que a gente tinha que atingir. E calcular tudo isso, porque a gente não tinha dimensionado, né, para um projeto específico como esse. A gente tem critérios padrões, mas para um projeto como esse, a gente teria que utilizar da inovação para atingir os objetivos que foram determinados.
Então a gente tinha a estrutura, né? E o objetivo era verificar se quando ele recebesse pesos em cima, ele ia resistir para proteger o ovo que ficava embaixo da estrutura. Foi aumentando gradativamente esse peso até ver qual era o limite, né? Eu fiquei muito feliz porque a gente ganhou e conseguiu atingir aí o objetivo, que era proteger o ovo.
Eu acho que trabalhar com esses projetos auxilia e facilita muito o nosso aprendizado.
Muita gente confunde engenharia biomédica com medicina ou engenharia biomédica com biomedicina, mas não tem nada a ver nem com um nem com o outro. Engenharia biomédica, como o próprio nome diz, é uma engenharia. E é uma engenharia que está relacionada à medicina, mas a gente não vai atuar nessa área. Então, a engenharia biomédica, a gente vai mexer com os equipamentos acerca da vida humana, ou seja, uma prótese, uma órtese, um equipamento de raio-x ou até um aplicativo que você usa em casa para o seu médico atender você. Então, tudo acerca da saúde que está relacionado com a vida humana, a gente está lidando.
No curso de engenharia biomédica, a gente também tem aula não só de cálculo, né? Não só da parte de exatas, a gente tem aula de anatomia. Então a gente utiliza o campus da Monte Alegre para fazer essas aulas, então os alunos vão até lá. Nós vamos também para Sorocaba, porque em Sorocaba tem o Hospital Santa Lucinda. É muito dinâmico, então os alunos estão sempre caminhando entre os campos e fazendo diversas atividades fora daqui, né? Não é só aqui dentro desse campus.
O curso de engenharia biomédica aqui na PUC, ele tem a base de 5 módulos. Então, a gente tem um módulo de biomateriais e reabilitação. O segundo módulo que a gente tem é de eletrônica médica, elétrica e eletrônica médica, que é fundamental em qualquer equipamento de grande porte que a gente vai estar mexendo. O terceiro módulo que a gente tem é de informática médica, então a gente vê toda a parte de programação, então é a parte mais tecnológica assim, do curso e mais atual.
A gente fez um projeto de informática no ano passado, que foi o App Inventory, que através desses blocos que tem os comandos, a gente pode desenvolver aplicativos para celulares Android. Foi um personal doctor que é possível você colocar os seus dados pessoais, então, por exemplo, o nome. Depois disso, você tem o seu IMC, que através da sua altura e o seu peso, a sua idade, ele calcula o seu índice de massa corporal. Tem uma tabela de vacinas. Tudo isso você pode salvar. E independente de você fechar o aplicativo, desligar o celular, ela continua salva, então você pode abrir ele sempre quando você precisar.
O quarto módulo que a gente tem é de imagens médicas, então a gente vê toda a parte de imagens, ou seja, ultrassonografia, tomografia, raio-x, ressonância magnética e até a parte de medicina nuclear. Na parte prática a gente vem ver como é que funciona mesmo o aparelho. Se falando de raio-x, tem toda a parte da física por trás, né? Como é que funciona, como é que ele deve ser operado, a gente tem que saber tudo acerca do equipamento para poder trabalhar em cima disso nele.
Quando a gente teve o laboratório, a gente mediu a sala para ver se estava tudo correto, porque tem tudo uma norma de como as salas devem ser. E além disso, a gente mexeu no painel, como deve ser feito um exame correto de raio-x. No segundo ano que tem tomografia, no terceiro tem ultrassom. Então a gente vai visitar e ver o equipamento funcionando mesmo em hospitais.
E o último que a gente tem, ele fala sobre gestão hospitalar. O que é gestão hospitalar? É como se fosse a administração de um hospital. Só que um gestor hospitalar, ele tem que ter toda a base de conhecimento sobre os equipamentos, porque nós vamos ser os engenheiros dentro de um hospital.
Ao passar dos anos, esses eixos vão ficando mais complexos, né? Porque a gente consegue fazer com que o aluno ele vai adquirindo conhecimento e tornando esse aprendizado mais complexo para chegar até no final, no desenvolvimento do projeto de conclusão de curso.
Você foge um pouco dessa coisa de sala de aula que acaba sendo cansativa. Sim, a gente tem as matérias que são mais em sala de aula, que aí entra as matérias básicas de engenharia, que é cálculo, física, até a anatomia entra um pouco, mas a gente tem bastante aula prática, então a gente já foi nos laboratórios da PUC de Perdizes, em Sorocaba, a gente já fez visita. Essa parte focada nos módulos, assim, os professores conseguem dar práticas que você consegue aplicar no seu dia.
Aqui a gente consegue ver toda a base que a gente precisa.
Toda segunda-feira aqui no curso a gente tem a tutoria, né? Que seria uma atividade grupal. Cada grupo vai ter um tutor. Então é o professor que vai guiar esse projeto. Eles apresentam pra gente um problema, uma situação real que aconteceu. A gente discute sobre aquele problema, formula questões, discute sobre os termos desconhecidos. E a partir daí a gente leva esse problema para casa, pesquisa as questões em casa.
No final a gente faz um resumo crítico sobre tudo que a gente aprendeu.
Eles são avaliados tanto na abertura do problema quanto no fechamento do problema. E aí a gente vê, na realidade, alguns pontos principais. A participação, a liderança, conteúdo, se está apropriado ou não, né? A participação do grupo como um todo. O próprio nome diz, é uma metodologia ativa, né? Onde o aluno, na realidade, ele é obrigado a buscar o conhecimento.
A base que ela fornece para você, tanto de conhecimento, quanto de você ir atrás do conhecimento, te ensinar como ir atrás de tudo, como pesquisar. Porque no mercado de trabalho, eles não vão te dar um livro e falar, faz um projeto. Eles vão te dar o projeto e você tem que correr atrás. A PUC ensina você a correr atrás disso.
A gente tem estagiário na Siemens, na GE, temos alunos, ex-alunos que trabalham na Johnson, nos hospitais são no Sírio-Libanês, no Hospital das Clínicas. Então o mercado está absorvendo muito bem os alunos aqui do nosso curso.
Quando o pessoal vê o nome PUC, você já sobe um degrauzinho na escada de uma profissão.